Imagine for a moment that someone you love goes through several attacks on their physical body, which then actually results in part of their brain shutting down. My guest today shares that very experience as it happened to her 2-year-old son. How did he heal? She'll tell us. And the body is quite miraculous. Join me for Pauline's story. This is the highway to healing. Oh, Pauline, I'm so excited that you're a part of this episode today. I've known you for years. You are a delight, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to this episode today.
Thank you. I'm the one that's excited.
All right. So you are originally from France and you moved to Las Vegas, actually before returning to France again. But moving from France to Las Vegas, I need you to walk me through that. What was that like?
I actually moved from Germany to Vegas. I'm French and I did a good part of my life and my childhood in France, but then I decided to do my master's in Germany because all I wanted to do is work in Germany. I had my friends there. I knew a lot of people from high school. So, and I met my husband during a summer season. I was translating on stage for shows in a resort, and my husband was showcasing as a gymnast. So he was on the show every single night showcasing, and I was translating the show into German and English. And long story short, we fell in love. He told me he was going to try to get cast for Cirque du Soleil, which at the time, was in Canada. The headquarters were in Canada. So they were training gymnasts to become artists. And he told me I'm going to have to leave just at least for the casting. And then if it works out, I'm going to be gone for quite some time. And, we just, thank God we didn't know what was ahead of us, but we said, sure, let's do it. So he went to London, did a casting, got cast, went to Montreal for 6 months and got trained from a gymnast to an artist. And after that, usually artists just go back to their country and either being called for a specific show, then they have to go. Well, he didn't have a chance to go back to France. He was sent straight to Las Vegas. Cirque du Soleil had many touring shows at the time and a few resident shows. So he was lucky to be sent to a resident show, which meant that he could still have a normal life. But I was still doing my master's in Germany for 3 years and a half. We were apart, so we saw each other maybe twice a year for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then the rest of the time, thank MSN at the time, with our big, huge cameras that you had to stick on your computer, we were able to see each other almost every day. And I guess that saved our relationship. So luckily, my studies was in business management and event planning. So I was able to get the last part of my master's was to get a 6 months training in something related to event planning. And obviously that was supposed to happen in Germany. I changed my major and found a training in an amazing production in Vegas, Farrington Production. They took me as a trainee and my world completely changed from that day on. I mean, where I was in Germany was at the border of the Czech Republic. So majorly senior citizens were the inhabitants of that city. And then I land in Vegas with like sparkles and beads and pearls and feathers. And it was amazing. So yeah, for 6 months, I was an event planner assisting people there. And also they had an amazing and huge costume shop where I learned everything, all those little hands, like making costumes and going to all these big events, MTV, and it was just incredible. So I had a blast. And the last day, I was told that my visa was expiring and they were not delivering work permits at the time for France. So we had 48 hours to get married, which we did with a webcam so that our family could be there at 10 a.m. with all the people from the show. So nobody looked like they were getting married, but having a party for sure. And we got married and I was able to stay. And I thought it was just going to be for a year or two because artists at Cirque only had a year visa that they could renew every year, depending on where they were at the show. And that lasted 15 years. So it was definitely a big life change.
Oh my goodness gracious. I guess so. And then you ended up working for Cirque du Soleil as well, correct?
Yes, I did after a couple years. Yes, absolutely.
Oh
And
my gosh.
that was a chance of my life. I mean, I did work for quite a few productions, and that was amazing. And I finally got a job at Cirque. It's funny because it's never a path that I thought I would take. It was still kind of in event planning, but in philanthropy. Cirque du Soleil had a huge department, global citizenship, which was really dedicated to at-risk youth, street youth. That was Cirque du Soleil's mission. And my job was really to assess which organizations could use our help and bring social circus to get the kids out of their misery, pretty much. So we had to partner with a lot of different institutions in town and also abroad, because every city, every country that Cirque du Soleil visited, we definitely got involved in each city, and street youth as well. So it just, I mean, I did that for 8 years, and to make money giving money away to people who need it was just priceless. Kids that never spoke before were taken on our stages and opened their mouth for the first time, and it was just wonderful. I was very lucky. Yes.
Yeah, you changed lives for sure. And speaking of change, so you were in Las Vegas with your new husband, you start a family, and then something perplexing actually happened to your son. I'd like you to share that story with us.
Yes, so I had two kids that were born in Vegas. My first one, Lila, who is now almost 9, and then my son, who is going to be 6 soon. So time flies. And when he was almost 2, something kind of bizarre happened until this day. I mean, now that I'm in energy a little bit more, I kind of understand. But over the course of 3 weeks, it just had random events that happened. We went on vacation to Mexico. We had an ear infection at the resort. They gave him antibiotics, and then 12 hours later, he had a really, really bad reaction to it. So it got almost dangerous. They gave him something to stop it. He got bitten by mosquitoes there. His legs got infected. So we flew back to Vegas after a week, and then he got some sort of a cold from friends we had over. So anyway, over the course of 3 weeks, his immune system got taxed by complete random different things. And one morning he woke up and he couldn't sit, he couldn't walk, he couldn't see, he couldn't speak. Everything was gone. He was just looking at the ceiling, and just the body was gone. Um, and literally overnight, like he threw up all night long. We thought he just had a stomach flu. And then in the next morning, it just looked handicapped. So we rushed to the ER. They didn't know what to tell us. They ran some scans. They just told us to go see our pediatrician. And the next morning, which was already difficult to just spend another day like that. And then the pediatrician's face completely changed. And he sent us right away to a pediatric hospital so that we could get checked by a neurologist. They didn't know if it was cancer, if something just really dangerous had happened, and they just couldn't figure it out. But he was gone. He was physically there, but he was gone. So anyway, 11 hours later, they told us that he had Cerebella Ataxia. So I guess once again, the body is very well made. His immune system had been so taxed that a part of his brain shut off so that his body could take over and rebuild from there and recover, basically. So it's rare, but it does happen. And usually they can tell you if it's going to take 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months for the kids to recover. So we were at a state where we were in the unknown, but we had faith that it was going to work out. So he has a strong personality, and it didn't take too long. I would say maybe 5 days later, it was completely back to normal. But because his hips had been dislocated and he couldn't sit straight, his spine, like we just wanted to make sure he was still fine. Like his body had really had a huge trauma. So we went to a chiropractor in town. And I want to name her because she was really incredible. Chiropractic for Life, Dr. Shadia Corey. She checked him, made sure his hips, his back was slowly getting back to normal. And she told me at the time, we have an amazing pediatric Reiki practitioner. And because of the trauma that you all went through, especially for him, I would advise you to see her. And to be honest, I was never close to anything, but I had no idea what Reiki was. I had no idea what energy was. I had no idea what essential oils really did, aside of smelling good. but I was just so traumatized that I was ready to do anything. And so she just told me, oh, let him play and I'll just sit there. And she opened her hands and for an hour she just sat there. And then she told me, okay, it's going to be all fine. And at that moment I was like, okay, if she can do this, I can do this too. And I feel like I just needed to understand. So I took my daughter for a session, who was 3 at the time, and it just hit her like big time. She understood everything that happened. And so I went for a session myself, and my husband was very skeptical and just didn't understand how someone that doesn't touch you and doesn't do anything can actually heal someone. So I decided to take Reiki 1 just to understand what that was. And my point doing this was just so that I could heal my kids if something like that were to happen again. I mean, far from me the idea of starting anything. I just wanted to understand. And at the end of that training, they told us, okay, for a month, you're going to have to practice on yourself every single day so that you can detox. And I felt pretty fine. I mean, I'm a pretty positive person. So I was like, sure, that's fine. I can do this. And it was the worst month of my life. I was a mess. I was in tears every night. It was horrible. And I was like, if level 2 is worse than that, then I don't think I can do this. But because I knew level 2 would get me to actually learn how to heal, I just knew I had to go. So I went back, and that day definitely changed my life. It was amazing. I felt empowered. I felt like I just discovered who I was. Like I guess I was another version of myself before, but it completely changed everything. And of course, one thing leads to another. I met Dallisa, you changed my life. I mean, I talk about you all the time, and no matter where we are, I know you'll be a part of me forever because you opened my eyes to so many different things. And I just wanted to learn more. I wanted to understand. I'm a very kind of scientific person. So Reiki for me made sense because I had to use symbols. I needed a procedure. I couldn't just close my eyes and visualize what I wanted to do. I was too cerebral to do this. My brain was working too much. So I guess I met the right person, the right trainer to just teach me how to do this. And I remember taking Dalisa's, for me, first class. And that was the thing. I just wanted to be able to let go, to put my brain on the side and just let my body and my heart feel more. So to get certified, you have to do 40 treatments. I was in Vegas. All of my people were in France. So I did a lot of distance sessions, which forces you to almost meditate and just, connect with a higher self more than just the body itself. And it was just magical. I had traumatic cases. I just didn't trust myself, but the energy worked itself out. And I saw my kids getting better. Once again, getting introduced to oils changed my life. Everything happened at the same time. But today, like, I wouldn't be able to go one day without using essential oils. My kids know what to grab when they're not feeling fine, when they need to focus, when, even when they're happy. All of it just came at the right time. My son is doing wonderful today. I think we're still scarred from what happened. So every time there's a little something, I realized today, and I was told that a long time ago, you're not meant to work on your kids, your family, your close ones. I mean, it's fine when it's the flu or when they have a fever or when they're sad. But when it's big things like that, you're just too close. And I was lucky enough to have amazing practitioners around me that could help us out, even with your spouse. Sometimes your spouse is not doing well, and it's just hard. It's hard to, you can help them do the best you can, but it's nice to be able to rely on other practitioners that have no strings attached. So anyways, that journey just started at that time, and it's been now a couple of years, and I have met incredible people along the way. I've grown into this journey, and I guess I'm not scared anymore. Like, I know that hardship happened for sure. We went through this, and a lot of people did the last year or two. And there is a reason for everything, for sure. It's hard to see it in the moment when you're suffering, but everything does happen for a reason. And I would have never gotten into Reiki, into essential oils, into energy work if this hadn't happened. So I guess he was the reason why, my career path changed, and we all changed.
Yeah, he was the catalyst for sure. You got to explain Reiki to people who are listening, who are like, I have no idea what she's talking about. So how would you describe Reiki? What is that?
I mean, everybody has their own explanation. To me, it's, a good match and cross between the universe's energy and then your energy and the person's energy, you're working on. So basically, Reiki lets you take the Band-Aid off and deal with whatever blockages you had. Sometimes people have a bad knee or their back is hurting, and that's usually coming from something emotional that happened. And when you're hurting physically, it's kind of like the last resort. Your body is just telling you, okay, now there's only pain that's going to make you realize you need to do something. So now is the time. So the good thing with Reiki is that you don't really need to put a word on what's going on. When you have someone physically next to you, you really just put your hands above the body, you scan it, and the energy that you're going to feel is going to tell you where something needs to be unblocked. The thing is, though, you have to want to invest in yourself. So what it's going to do, all the emotional stuff is going to come up. You have to want to deal with it. And that was my detox. I mean, a lot of things came up, and you can choose to bury them again, and they're going to stay there and come back at some point. Or you can choose to acknowledge them and just be ready to let them go. So that's the beauty of it. I feel like you can be forced to have a Reiki session. If you want a Reiki session, you want to work on it. Like, we can't work on you if you're not willing to, because your soul, your body, your whole self has to be willing to work on it. And what I liked about kids is that they have no filter. As adults, we have a lot of blockages. The brain is just trying to control it so much that sometimes we're our worst enemy. The kids don't have any filter. They're there. That's it. So usually the energy works extremely fast. And that's just fascinating to me still to this day. And I even worked a few times actually on babies still in the womb. And that's magical. It's just so powerful, so powerful. So no matter who you are, where you are, which stage of life you are, it's incredible. People in comas too. I had a girl who was in a coma, and that was one of the strongest Reiki sessions I ever had. Like, she communicated so much. It was incredible. Reiki is just magical. And I think it's just, if everybody would do a good Reiki detox once a month, everybody would be in a great shape all the time.
Yeah, you're right. People need to take accountability for their own healing and where they're at. And all they have to say is yes, and be willing to be that willing participant in their own healing. So beautiful. People listening to this, they hear your story, they hear how Reiki changed your life, the life of your family. What advice or insight would you give to people listening that maybe you're going through, their own difficulty right now, or they haven't quite found their solution yet? What would you say to them?
I mean, I would just tell you to be open and to keep your eyes open. I think we are being drawn to the right people at the right time if you choose to have faith. I know it can sound very difficult, and once again, we were lucky. It didn't last a very long time. Like, that panic mode ended after a few weeks, but some people go through severe illness, and it's very difficult to see the light when you're in it. We lost actually at least two friends on the shows. And it was extremely difficult. And at the time, I did not understand why we had to go through this. One of our friends lost her little boy who drowned in the pool in her backyard one day. And I remember writing to Dallisa and asking, why? Like, you want to have faith, but sometimes you don't understand why those things need to happen. So I feel like you will never know why or how. And I don't think that's really relevant. But to keep going through it, you just have to have faith that there is something out there that you're meant to learn, and there are people around you that can help you. I was open. I was so desperate to get my family back in shape. I was so desperate to see my son and my daughter get better. When my husband lost his best friend on the show, I was so desperate to see him get better because he was drowning himself, that I was ready to take any advice. And once again, I opened up myself, and the right people just ended up being on my way. And like I said, today they will be part of my life forever. So I feel like, if anything, just stay open and have faith that the light is at the end of the tunnel in some ways, in some shape or forms. Yeah.
I love that. Pauline, you are a joy, and please give a big hug to your family I know that you're doing well in France and still getting adjusted to your new life there, but please send everybody a big hug, okay?
I will for sure. Thank you so much.
To connect with Pauline, please visit her on her Facebook page. We've included the link in our show notes. Stories like this one are important to tell. It reminds us that even during the darkest times, we can always find light. We can always choose faith over fear. For exclusive content, please join my Spark Plug members only community and apply to be a guest on this show. Find out more at spiritandspark.com.